By October 11, 1939, Europe was fully engulfed in the early stages of World War II. Following the invasion and occupation of Poland, Nazi Germany had shifted its focus towards future operations in Western Europe, while the Soviet Union continued consolidating its influence in Eastern Europe and the Baltics. At the same time, international diplomatic efforts and military preparations were underway in multiple theaters of conflict. The day was marked by critical developments both on the battlefield and in the diplomatic arena. Military events, preparations, and skirmishes. On the Western Front, activity remained relatively quiet, though there were reports of skirmishes between German and French patrols. German artillery fire and reconnaissance missions were frequent along the French-German border. The British Expeditionary Force, BEF, which had been steadily deploying troops into France, reached a significant strength of around 158,000 soldiers. As both sides prepared for future large-scale engagements, these minor confrontations tested defensive lines without yet leading to major battles. Elsewhere, preparations for future conflicts intensified. In Finland, the government began calling up military reservists and mounting anti-aircraft guns in key cities, anticipating potential Soviet aggression. These military actions came in response to Soviet demands for territorial concessions, part of the broader Soviet strategy to secure its western border. Diplomatic and geopolitical developments. Tensions rise in Europe. Diplomatically, October 11th saw significant developments related to the looming Soviet-Finnish conflict. U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt sent an urgent appeal to Soviet President Mikhail Kalinin, asking for restraint and caution in dealings with Finland. Roosevelt's letter reflected growing international concern that the Soviet demands on Finland could escalate into full-blown war, destabilizing the region further. Finland, in turn, was evacuating some of its frontier areas, including key cities like Helsinki and Viborg, in anticipation of possible Soviet military action. Meanwhile, in Berlin, there were false reports that the British government had fallen and peace negotiations with Germany were imminent. This false radio broadcast led to public celebrations in Germany, though the report was swiftly disproven. At the same time, negotiations between the Polish government in exile and the British leadership continued in London, underscoring the Allies' commitment to continuing the fight against Nazi Germany despite recent setbacks. International reactions and media coverage. The media coverage on October 11, 1939, highlighted both the military preparations and the diplomatic efforts underway. In Britain, reports focused on the deployment of the BEF to France and the ongoing logistical challenges of reinforcing the Western Front. The British War Office also announced an increase in the production of mustard gas, underscoring the level of preparation for chemical warfare in the event of an escalation. In the United States, newspapers covered Roosevelt's diplomatic efforts to prevent a Soviet-Finnish war, as well as the ongoing debate over the Neutrality Act, which was being reconsidered in light of growing tensions in Europe. American public opinion was increasingly aware of the potential global implications of the war, especially as incidents such as the capture of the U.S. cargo ship City of Flint by a German battleship raised concerns over American involvement in the conflict. Projections. The future of the war. The events of October 11, 1939, foreshadowed major developments in the coming months. Germany's preparations on the Western Front suggested that a large-scale offensive against France and the Low Countries was inevitable. Meanwhile, the growing tensions between the Soviet Union and Finland indicated that the conflict might soon spread to the Northern Front, with the Winter War becoming an increasingly likely prospect. The diplomatic and military maneuvering on this day set the stage for the expansion of the war into new regions and laid the groundwork for more intense engagements in 1940. As Europe braced for what was to come, the actions taken on this day reflected the complexity of the war's early stages and the uncertainties faced by both the Allies and the Axis powers.